The galaxy was vast, but for humanity it had become a prison. The stars that once inspired dreams now served as reminders of their captivity. Earth, once vibrant and full of life, was now nothing more than a shadow of its former self. The skies were darkened by alien ships, and the ground shook under the weight of their machines. Humanity had been pushed to the brink of extinction, forced to live under the oppressive rule of an alien race known as the Vorin. Jin Woo was just another face in the crowd, one of billions struggling to survive. He wasn't a hero or a leader. He was a simple man with calloused hands and weary eyes, working as an engineer in the ruins of what was once Seoul. Every day he repaired broken machines scavenged from the wreckage of the old world. His skills kept him alive, but survival came at a cost. Jin Woo often wondered if there was any point to his existence. Was he just fixing things so others could destroy them again? One cold evening, as Jin Woo trudged through the crumbling streets, he heard the distant hum of engines. It was a sound he knew all too well. The Vorin were out on patrol. Most people would have hidden at the first sign of trouble, but Jin Woo froze. Something about the sound was different this time. It wasn't the steady hum of a routine sweep. It was erratic, almost panicked. Curiosity got the better of him, and he followed the noise, careful to stay in the shadows. The source of the commotion was not far away. In a narrow alley littered with debris, Jin Woo saw something that made his heart race. A figure lay sprawled on the ground, clutching its side. At first glance, Jin Woo thought it was another human casualty, but as he crept closer, he realized the truth. It wasn't human at all. The figure was tall and slender, with skin that shimmered faintly in the dim light. Its armor was cracked and scorched, evidence of a fierce battle. Jin Woo's instincts screamed at him to run. Helping a Vorin was madness. They were the enemy, the ones who had enslaved humanity and reduced Earth to rubble. But something stopped him. Maybe it was the way the alien's breathing was shallow and labored, or the way its glowing eyes flickered weakly, searching for help. Whatever it was, Jin Woo couldn't turn away. He glanced around to make sure no one was watching, then stepped into the open. The alien tensed at the sight of him, its hand reaching for a weapon that wasn't there. Jin Woo held up his hands to show he meant no harm. "I'm not here to hurt you," he said, his voice trembling. The alien didn't respond, but its eyes locked onto his. There was pain in those eyes, but also something else: fear. Jin Woo had never seen a Vorin afraid before. To him, they had always been invincible, untouchable. But this one was vulnerable, just like any other living being. "I can help you," Jin Woo whispered, though he wasn't sure why he was offering. Maybe it was because he saw an opportunity to strike back at the oppressors, even in a small way. Or maybe it was because he still believed in kindness, even when it seemed pointless. The alien hesitated, then nodded slightly. Jin Woo knelt beside it and examined the wound. It was bad, a jagged gash running across its side, oozing a strange, silvery fluid. Jin Woo tore a strip of cloth from his shirt and pressed it against the wound to stop the bleeding. The alien winced, but didn't resist. "Can you walk?" Jin Woo asked. The alien shook its head. Jin Woo sighed. He couldn't leave it here. It would either bleed out or be found by other Vorin. Neither option seemed acceptable. Summoning all his strength, Jin Woo hoisted the alien onto his shoulders and began to move. It was heavy, much heavier than he expected, but he gritted his teeth and kept going. He carried the alien to an abandoned warehouse on the outskirts of the city. It wasn't safe, but it was the best he could do. Inside, he laid the alien down on a makeshift bed of old blankets and continued tending to its wound. He used scraps of metal and wire to fashion a crude splint, doing his best to stabilize the injury. Hours passed, and Jin Woo worked tirelessly. When he finally sat back to rest, he noticed the alien watching him. Its glowing eyes were brighter now, filled with a mixture of gratitude and confusion. "Why, help me?" the alien rasped, its voice deep and resonant. Jinwoo shrugged. You needed it. The alien stared at him for a long moment, then said, I am Kale. Jinwoo, he replied. Kale closed his eyes, as if the effort of speaking was too much. Jinwoo watched him carefully, wondering if he had made a terrible mistake. What if Kale turned on him once he recovered? What if bringing him here put everyone in danger? But deep down, Jinwoo knew he had done the right thing. Even in a world ruled by hatred and fear, acts of kindness still mattered. They might not change the galaxy overnight, but they planted seeds of hope. And those seeds grew into something extraordinary. As the night wore on, Jinwoo stayed by Kale's side, unsure of what the future held, but certain of one thing. Humanity never overlooked a favor, and when the time came, they would remember this moment. Years passed, and the galaxy remained as cruel as ever. Humanity continued to endure under the iron grip of the Vorin, but something had changed. The resistance movement, once scattered and weak, had grown stronger. People were no longer willing to accept their fate quietly. In the shadows, they plotted, trained, and prepared for the day when they could strike back. Jinwoo was no longer just an engineer fixing broken machines. He had become a vital part of the resistance, using his skills to repair weapons and build tools that kept the fight alive. His hands, once calloused from years of labor, were now marked by burns and scars from endless nights spent working on dangerous projects. But he didn't mind. Every scratch, every bruise, was a reminder of the hope he carried within him. By his side was Hye-jin, a fierce and determined woman who had quickly risen to become one of the Resistance's top strategists. She was sharp-witted and unyielding, with a knack for turning even the smallest advantage into a weapon. Together, Jinwoo and Hye-jin made a formidable team. While Jinwoo worked behind the scenes, Hye-jin led missions and rallied the people. Her speeches inspired courage in those who had lost all faith, and her plans struck fear into the hearts of their oppressors. But despite their efforts, the resistance faced overwhelming odds. The Vorin were ruthless, their technology far superior to anything humanity could produce. Every victory came at a great cost, and every defeat left them weaker than before. It felt like they were fighting a losing battle, but Hye-jin refused to give up. "We may fall," she often said, "but we will never kneel." One evening, as Jinwoo and Hye-jin sat in a hidden bunker reviewing plans for their next operation, a message arrived. It wasn't delivered through the usual channels. It came directly to Jinwoo's personal communicator. The device buzzed softly, catching him off guard. No one outside the Resistance knew how to contact him. Curious and wary, he opened the message. The screen displayed a single line of text. "I am Kale. I remember your kindness." Jinwoo's heart skipped a beat. He hadn't thought about Kale in years. After saving the alien general, then he had returned to his life, assuming he would never see or hear from him again. Yet here was Kale, reaching out after all this time. "What is it?" Hye-jin asked, noticing the look on Jinwoo's face. He showed her the message. Her expression hardened immediately. "This could be a trap," she warned. "The Vorin don't care about kindness. They only care about power." "I know," Jinwoo replied. "But what if it's not? What if he really means it?" Hye-jin hesitated. She wanted to dismiss the message outright, but something about it gave her pause. If Kale truly remembered Jinwoo's act of mercy, and if he was willing to repay it, then this could be the opportunity they had been waiting for. Still, she couldn't ignore the risks. "We need proof," she said finally. "If he wants to help us, he has to prove it first." Jinwoo nodded and sent a reply. "How can we trust you?" The response came quickly. "I will provide advanced technology. Use it to strengthen your cause. Meet me at coordinates 73.2 north, 145.8 west. Hye-jin studied the message carefully. Those coordinates are deep in enemy territory, she said. Even if this isn't a trap, getting there won't be easy. But we have to try, Jin Woo insisted. If he's telling the truth, this could change everything. Reluctantly, Hye-jin agreed. She assembled a small team of trusted fighters and began planning the mission. They would travel light and move fast, avoiding detection at all costs. The journey would be perilous, but the potential reward was worth the risk. Days later, the team set out under the cover of darkness. The path to the meeting point was fraught with danger. Patrols of Vorin drones roamed the skies, scanning for any sign of rebellion. The team moved silently, sticking to the shadows and relying on Hye-jin's expertise to navigate the treacherous terrain. Finally, they reached the designated location, a desolate stretch of land surrounded by jagged cliffs. There was no sign of Kale or anyone else. For a moment, Jin Woo feared they had been lured into a trap. Then a figure emerged from the shadows. It was Kale. He looked different from the last time Jin Woo had seen him. His armor was sleek and polished, and his presence commanded respect. But there was still a hint of vulnerability in his glowing eyes, a reminder of the wounded alien Jin Woo had saved all those years ago. "You came," Kyle said, his voice steady but tinged with emotion. "So did you," Jin Woo replied. The Kale stepped forward and placed a small case on the ground. "Inside is technology far beyond what your people currently possess. It will give you an edge against the Vorin." Hye-jin approached cautiously, her hand resting on the hilt of her weapon. "Why are you doing this?" she demanded. Kyle looked at her, then at Jin Woo. "Because I owe him a debt," he said simply. "And because the Vorin have forgotten what it means to show compassion. Perhaps humanity can remind them." Hye-jin exchanged a glance with Jin Woo. She still didn't fully trust Kale, but his words rang true. Slowly she knelt and opened the case. Inside was a collection of devices, weapons, communication tools, and other gadgets unlike anything she had ever seen. "This is incredible," she murmured, running her fingers over the smooth surfaces. "But use it wisely," Kyle warned. My people will not take kindly to this. If they discover my involvement, there will be consequences." "We understand," Jin Woo said. "Thank you." Kyle nodded. "Good luck, my friend. May your fight bring balance to this galaxy." With that, he turned and disappeared into the night, leaving Jin Woo and Hye-jin to ponder the weight of what had just happened. Back at the bunker, the Resistance wasted no time putting the new technology to use. Jin Woo worked tirelessly to adapt the alien devices for human use, while Hye-jin devised strategies to maximize their impact. For the first time in years, there was a glimmer of hope. But as the days turned into weeks, doubts began to creep in. Was Kale truly helping them out of gratitude, or was there another motive? And more importantly, could they trust him to keep their secret? Only time would tell. The Resistance was buzzing with energy. The alien technology Kale had provided was unlike anything they had ever seen. Weapons that could cut through Vorin armor, communication devices that couldn't be traced, and tools that made their operations faster and more efficient. All of it felt like a miracle. For the first time in years, humanity had a fighting chance. Jin Woo worked day and night to understand how the devices functioned. He wasn't just repairing machines anymore. He was unlocking secrets that could change the course of the war. Hye-jin stood by his side, guiding him on which pieces of tech would have the biggest impact. Together, they transformed the Resistance into a force to be reckoned with. But not everyone shared their optimism. Some members of the Resistance were skeptical of Kale's motives. Why would an alien general, or one of the very beings who had enslaved humanity, suddenly decide to help them? It didn't make sense. Whispers of betrayal spread through the ranks, and tensions began to rise. "We can't trust him," one fighter named Min Su said during a meeting. "This could all be a trap. What if these weapons malfunction in the middle of a battle? What if they're tracking us right now? Hye-jin listened patiently, her sharp eyes scanning the room. She understood their concerns, but she also knew they couldn't afford to second-guess every move. "We've tested the tech," she said firmly. "It works, and yes, there's always a risk when dealing with the enemy. But if we don't take this chance, we'll never win." Min-soo crossed his arms, unconvinced. "And what happens when the Vorin find out? They'll come for us harder than ever." "They already know we exist," Hye-jin shot back. "They've been hunting us for years. The only difference now is that we have the tools to fight back. Are you saying we should throw away our best chance because you're afraid?" The room fell silent. No one dared challenge Hye-jin when she spoke like that. Her determination was unmatched, and most people respected her for it. Still, the unease lingered. Jin-woo tried to ease their fears. "Kyle helped me once before, and he didn't have to. I believe he's sincere." "That's not enough," Min-soo muttered under his breath. But he didn't argue further. Despite the doubts, the resistance pressed on. Hye-jin devised a bold plan to strike at a key Vorin supply depot, a heavily guarded facility that housed weapons and resources crucial to the alien war effort. And with the new technology, they stood a chance of succeeding where previous attempts had failed. The mission was set for the following week. Jin-woo spent every waking moment preparing. He modified the alien weapons to suit human hands, ensuring they were as reliable as possible. Hye-jin drilled the team relentlessly, going over every detail of the plan until everyone knew their role by heart. On the night of the operation, the air was thick with tension. The team moved silently through the darkness, their footsteps muffled by the soft earth. Jin-woo carried a modified alien rifle slung across his back, its sleek design gleaming faintly in the moonlight. Hye-jin led the way, her sharp eyes scanning for any sign of trouble. When they reached the depot, everything seemed eerily quiet. Too quiet. Hye-jin signaled for the team to hold their positions while she scouted ahead. Moments later, she returned with grim news. "It's a trap," she whispered. "There are more guards than expected. They're waiting for us." Panic rippled through the group, but Hye-jin held up a hand to silence them. "We can still do this," she said. "We came prepared. We use the tech and hit them hard before they know what's happening." Jin-woo nodded, gripping his weapon tightly. He hadn't wanted to believe Kale would betray them, but now he wasn't so sure. Had the alien general lured them into a death trap? Or was this simply bad luck? Either way, there was no turning back. Hye-jin gave the signal, and the team sprang into action. The alien weapons roared to life, cutting through Vorin defenses with terrifying precision. So the resistance fighters moved like shadows, striking quickly and retreating before the enemy could regroup. For the first time, humanity held the upper hand. But then, something went wrong. One of the alien devices, a powerful explosive charge designed to breach the depot's walls, malfunctioned. Instead of detonating cleanly, it erupted in a chaotic blast that sent debris flying in all directions. The explosion alerted every Vorin soldier within miles, and soon the resistance was surrounded. "Fall back!" Hye-jin shouted, but it was too late. Reinforcements poured in from every direction, pinning the team down. Jin-woo fired wildly, his mind racing. Was this Kale's doing? Had the alien betrayed them after all? Or was it just a flaw in the technology? There was no time to think about it. The situation was spiraling out of control. In the chaos, Jin-woo spotted Hye-jin pinned behind a pile of rubble, exchanging fire with a group of Vorin soldiers. Without hesitation, he ran toward her, dodging blasts and narrowly avoiding enemy fire. When he reached her, he grabbed her arm and pulled her to safety. "We need to get out of here," he yelled over the noise. "I'm not leaving without finishing the job," she snapped, pointing to the depot's main entrance. Inside was a cache of critical supplies that could cripple the Vorin war machine. If they could destroy it, the mission wouldn't be a total loss. Jin-woo hesitated, torn between survival and duty. Then he nodded. All right, let's do it. Together they fought their way to the entrance, relying on the alien weapons to keep the Vorin at bay. Once inside, Jinwoo planted a secondary charge, a smaller, a more stable device he had built himself. As the timer ticked down, they sprinted for the exit, narrowly escaping the blast that followed. The depot erupted in flames, lighting up the night sky. The team regrouped outside, battered but alive. Hye-jin surveyed the destruction with a mixture of satisfaction and frustration. "We did it," she said, though her voice lacked conviction. "At what cost?" Jinwoo asked quietly. Back at the bunker, the mood was somber. The mission had succeeded, but at a heavy price. Several fighters had been lost, and the malfunctioning tech had nearly gotten them all killed. Trust in Kale's intentions had plummeted to an all-time low. Jinwoo sat alone in the corner, staring at the alien rifle in his hands. He thought about the kindness Kale had shown him years ago, the gratitude in the alien's eyes. Could someone capable of such compassion really betray them? Or was this all part of some larger game? Before he could dwell on it further, Hye-jin approached him. Her expression was unreadable, but her voice was firm. "We need answers," she said. "If Kale wants to help us, he needs to prove it. And if he's playing us, we need to know why." Jinwoo nodded. "I'll contact him." As he sent the message, he couldn't shake the feeling that the truth would change everything, for better or worse. The message to Kale was sent, but Jinwoo wasn't sure what to expect. Would the alien general respond? And if he did, would his explanation ease their doubts or confirm their worst fears? The resistance waited anxiously, their trust hanging by a thread. Days passed with no reply. The silence weighed heavily on everyone, especially Jinwoo. And he had believed in Kale's sincerity, but now that belief felt like a fragile hope ready to shatter. Hye-jin, ever pragmatic, refused to let the uncertainty distract them from their mission. She pushed the team harder than ever, preparing for the next battle as if nothing had changed. Finally, late one night, Jinwoo's communicator buzzed softly. It was Kale. "I need to speak with you. Alone." Jinwoo hesitated. Meeting Kale alone was risky, but he couldn't ignore the request. Something about the tone of the message suggested urgency, a desperation that didn't match the image of the powerful Vorin general. "I'm going," Jinwoo told Hye-jin when she questioned him. "You're not going anywhere without backup," she insisted. "No," Jinwoo said firmly. "This has to be me. If I bring others, it might scare him off. We need answers. And I'm the only one he'll trust." Hye-jin frowned but relented. "Be careful," she warned. "If this is a trap, don't hesitate to run." Jinwoo nodded and set out into the night, following the coordinates Kale had provided. The meeting point was an abandoned factory on the outskirts of the city, far from prying eyes. As he approached, memories of their first encounter flooded back. The wounded alien, the act of kindness, the debt that had sparked all of this. Kyle was waiting for him inside, standing in the dim light filtering through broken windows. His armor gleamed faintly, but his posture was tense, almost defensive. When he saw Jinwoo, he stepped forward, his glowing eyes filled with a mixture of guilt and resolve. "You came," Kyle said, his voice low and strained. "I did," Jinwoo replied, saying, "Now tell me why you led us into a trap." Kyle flinched at the accusation. "It wasn't my doing," he said quickly. "The technology I gave you, it was tampered with. My own people sabotaged it." Jinwoo stared at him, searching for any sign of deception. "Why would they do that?" Kyle sighed, lowering his head. "Because they found out about our arrangement. They see humanity as nothing more than pests to be exterminated. Helping you, it was seen as treason." "So you betrayed us to save yourself?" Jinwoo asked, his voice rising with anger. "No," Kyle snapped, then softened. I tried to stop them, but I couldn't. The council forced my hand. They made me choose between loyalty to my kind and repaying my debt to you. I chose poorly. Jinwoo clenched his fists, torn between fury and confusion. You put lives at risk, Kale. A good people died because of your mistake. I know, Kyle said, his voice breaking. And I will carry that guilt forever. But I'm here now because I want to make it right. I owe you more than just a weapon. I owe you a chance to survive. Jinwoo studied him carefully. There was pain in Kale's eyes, a raw vulnerability that reminded him of the wounded alien he had saved years ago. Could he trust him again? Or was this another ploy to manipulate humanity? What can you do? Jinwoo asked finally. Kale straightened, determination replacing the guilt in his expression. I can give you access to the Vorin command network. With it, you can disrupt their operations, gather intelligence, and strike where it hurts most. But it won't be easy. If they discover what we've done, neither of us will survive. Jinwoo hesitated. The risks were enormous. But so was the potential reward. If they could infiltrate the Vorin network, it could turn the tide of the war in humanity's favor. I'll need proof, Jinwoo said. Something to show Hae-jin and the others that you're serious. Kale nodded and handed him a small device. This contains the codes to access the network. Use it wisely. Once you activate it, there's no turning back. Jinwoo took the device, its weight heavy in his hand. Why are you doing this, Kale? Why risk everything for us? Kale looked at him, his glowing eyes steady. Because you showed me kindness when no one else would. Because humanity still believes in things my people have forgotten. Mercy, compassion, honor. If there's any hope for this galaxy, it lies with you. Jinwoo didn't respond. He simply nodded and turned to leave, the device clutched tightly in his hand. When he returned to the bunker, Hae-jin was waiting for him. Her sharp eyes narrowed as she noticed the object in his grip. What is that? She demanded. It's proof, Jinwoo said. Kale gave us access to the Vorin command network. He's willing to help, but it comes with risks. Hae-jin examined the device carefully, her expression unreadable. How do we know this isn't another trick? We don't, Jinwoo admitted. But if it works, it could change everything. Hae-jin hesitated, weighing the possibilities. Finally, she nodded. All right, let's test it. Over the next few days, Jinwoo worked tirelessly to integrate the device into their systems. Hae-jin coordinated with the team, planning how best to use the newfound access. Slowly but surely, they began to infiltrate the Vorin network, gathering vital information and planting false data to confuse their enemies. The results were immediate and devastating. Supply lines were disrupted, communication channels jammed, and entire squadrons of Vorin forces were sent on wild goose chases. For the first time, humanity was dictating the terms of the fight, but the victories came at a cost. The Vorin weren't blind to what was happening. Suspicion grew within their ranks, and investigations into the breaches intensified. It was only a matter of time before they traced the source back to Kale, and to humanity. One evening, as Jinwoo monitored the network, a new message appeared. It was from Kale. They know it's me. I don't have much time left. Jinwoo's heart sank. He showed the message to Hae-jin, who read it silently. What do we do? Jinwoo asked. Hae-jin's jaw tightened. We finished what we started. Kyle made his choice. Now we have to make ours. Jinwoo nodded, though a pang of guilt gnawed at him. Kale had sacrificed everything to help them, to repay a debt that had started with a single act of kindness. And now, he was paying the ultimate price. As the resistance prepared for their final push, Jinwoo couldn't shake the image of Kale's glowing eyes, filled with gratitude and regret. Humanity never overlooked a favor, and they never forgot a betrayal. But sometimes even enemies could become allies in the fight for survival. The galaxy trembled under the weight of their retribution. The galaxy was on fire. The Resistance's infiltration of the Vorin command network had thrown their enemies into chaos. Supply lines collapsed, communications faltered, and entire fleets were left stranded and unable to coordinate attacks. Humanity, once dismissed as weak and insignificant, had proven itself a force to be reckoned with. But the cost of this victory was mounting. Kyle's betrayal of his own people had not gone unnoticed. The Vorin Council branded him a traitor and issued an order for his immediate execution. Jin Woo tried not to think about it too much. He told himself that Kale had made his choice just as they all had. Still, guilt lingered in the back of his mind. Kale had risked everything to repay a debt that had started with a single act of kindness. Now he was paying the ultimate price. Hyejin, ever the strategist, refused to let emotions cloud their judgment. "We can mourn later," she said firmly. "Right now, we need to finish what we started." The Resistance prepared for their final assault. Using the intelligence gathered from the Vorin network, they identified the enemy's central command hub, a massive orbital station that served as the nerve center for their operations. If they could destroy it, the Vorin would lose their ability to wage war effectively. It was a risky plan, but it was their best shot at ending the conflict once and for all. Jin Woo worked tirelessly to modify their weapons and equipment for the mission. The alien technology Kale had provided was still proving invaluable, though its use came with a heavy burden. Every time Jin Woo handled one of the devices, he thought of Kale and the sacrifices he had made. The night before the attack, the Resistance gathered in the bunker for a final briefing. Hyejin stood at the front of the room, her sharp eyes scanning the faces of her team. "This is it," she said, and her voice steady but filled with emotion. "Everything we've fought for comes down to this moment. We've lost friends, family, and allies along the way, but we've never given up. Tomorrow we take the fight to them. Tomorrow we show the Vorin and the galaxy what humanity is capable of." The room erupted in cheers, but Jin Woo remained silent. His thoughts drifted to Kale, wondering if the alien general was still alive. Had he managed to escape? Or had he been captured and executed already? Jin Woo shook his head, forcing himself to focus. There was no time for distractions. The next morning, the team set out under the cover of darkness. Their journey to the orbital station was perilous, requiring them to navigate through heavily guarded checkpoints and evade patrols of Vorin drones. Jin Woo carried a modified explosive charge designed to breach the station's defenses. It was risky, but necessary. As they approached the station, tension hung thick in the air. The structure loomed above them, a monolithic reminder of the Vorin's power. Hyejin signaled for silence as they slipped past the outer defenses. Inside, the corridors were dimly lit and eerily quiet. The team moved quickly, sticking to the shadows and avoiding detection. Finally, they reached the control room. Jin Woo placed the explosive charge on the main console while Hyejin kept watch. The device hummed softly as it began its countdown. "We're done here," Hyejin whispered. "Let's move." But before they could retreat, alarms blared throughout the station. Reinforcements poured into the room, surrounding them. The team fought fiercely, using the alien weapons to hold off the attackers. Jin Woo and Hyejin exchanged a glance. They weren't going to make it out alive. Then, unexpectedly, the Vorin soldiers froze. A familiar voice echoed through the room. "Stand down." It was Kale. He strode into the control room, his armor battered but his presence commanding. The Vorin soldiers hesitated, unsure of how to respond. "You dare defy the council?" one of them demanded. "I have committed treason," Kale replied calmly. "But I will not allow you to harm these humans. They are more honorable than any of you." The soldiers raised their weapons, but Kale moved faster. With a swift motion, he activated a device on his wrist, creating a powerful energy field that incapacitated everyone in the room except Jin Woo and Hyejin. "Go!" Kyle urged, his glowing eyes locking onto Jinwoo. Finish what you started. Jinwoo hesitated, torn between gratitude and guilt. Why are you doing this? Because you showed me kindness when no one else would, Kale said simply. Now go. Show the galaxy that humanity is worth fighting for. Hyojin grabbed Jinwoo's arm and pulled him toward the exit. We don't have time! Reluctantly, Jinwoo followed her, glancing back at Kale one last time. The alien general stood tall, facing the Voran soldiers alone. They escaped the station moments before the explosive charge detonated, sending a shock wave through the orbital hub. From their ship, Jinwoo and Hyejin watched as the massive structure crumbled into space debris. It's over, Hyejin said quietly, her voice tinged with both relief and sorrow. Jinwoo nodded, staring at the wreckage. What about Kale? Hyejin didn't answer. She didn't need to. They both knew the truth. Back on Earth, the Resistance celebrated their victory. For the first time in decades, the skies were clear of Voran ships. Humanity had won, not through strength or numbers, but through determination, ingenuity, and the courage to stand against impossible odds. Jinwoo stood alone on a hill overlooking the ruins of Seoul, the wind ruffling his hair. He thought about Kale and the debt that had sparked this chain of events. Mankind never overlooked a favor, and their retribution could shake worlds. But sometimes even enemies could become allies in the fight for survival. As the sun rose over the horizon, Jinwoo allowed himself a small smile. The galaxy was far from perfect, but it was a little brighter than it had been before. And in that light, he saw the promise of hope for humanity, and perhaps for others willing to believe in something greater than themselves.